Project 2.9 Unpacked the 595 shift register, option 3. This circuit is used to simulate the 74HC595 shift register. This circuit mainly consists of 4 of these SM74HC74D type flip-flop ICs. Each one contains 2 flip-flops, and essentially one set, which is the bottom set over here, is used as a shift register, and the other side is simply for the sole purpose of latching the output. These are edge-triggered flip-flops, which means that they can only store data on the rising edge of the clock pulse. The rising edge is when inside a clock pulse, the wave goes from a lower energy position to a higher energy position, which basically means from 0 to 1. Additionally, you have the NE555P IC over here. This is configured in monostable mode. And whenever I press this button, a clock signal is generated, and then the clock signal is just long enough to shift everything 1 bit forward through this entire register. This button over here is the data button. Whenever I press it down, it's a 1, and whenever I let go, it's a 0. When I press it down and then at the same time I also press down the clock button, this would shift a 1 into the shift register, and then any digits that was entered before that would go from the first flip-flop to the second flip-flop. If there wasn't a second flip-flop, it would go down to the third flip-flop, and so on and so forth. Everything shifts down the line. And then here you have a second set of flip-flops up here, as I said before. And then in this set of flip-flops, essentially they act as the output latch. They don't update automatically. And instead they wait for a separate latch signal. That's the purpose of this button over here. This is the latch button. Pressing this button essentially copies the data that was previously stored in the shift register into the output latches, and that can then be displayed on these 4 LEDs over here. Let me do a demonstration of this. So let's say we enter a random data in here, and then that is now all stored inside the shift registers part of the circuit. And then if we press this button over here, the latch part of the circuit functions, and then they would copy essentially the data that was stored over on these 4 LEDs. Lastly, over here you have a reset button. This reset button is essentially directly connected to the CLR pin on all of these flip-flops, and that when I press this button, essentially everything resets back to the original position. That's it for this circuit. Thank you very much for listening.